Hey, you got the captain, Captain Fuzzy here, and I've got another guide for you. I've seen some complaints lately, especially from new people to Source Filmmaker, having issues with making realistic poses. And there's a number of ways that this can be done, and I'm going to try and show a couple of these techniques and kind of give you an idea of how to get some more realistic poses out of your models. First of all, the more realistic that the model is, or the more accurate it is to real life, the more realistic the pose will look anyway. You can basically pose any character in a realistic pose that you want, but it is kind of constrained to the way the model is made and what kind of a character it is. As an example, here I have a relatively realistic rendition of an astronaut here, my little spacesuit model that I like to use. This one you can get some pretty realistic poses out of, and they look good. But if you were to switch over to something like some kind of a cartoon character or something like that, the posing might come out a little bit different because they're a cartoon character and they're meant in a way to kind of look silly. So you got to keep that in mind when you're doing your posing too. What kind of environment are you working with? What kind of universe are you working with? What kind of model are you working with? This can be translated over to animals, quadrupeds, but I'm going to do it with a biped since most people typically pose human or humanoid like models and stuff like that. So I'm going to focus mainly on that. But a lot of these techniques can be used to pose four-legged, eight-legged creatures and things of that nature. So that this can translate over to quadrupeds and multipeds too. So I'm going to go ahead and get started here. The first thing you need to do is know what the pose that you want to make looks like. Now, if you're not real versed on anatomy and physiology and how the human body or how a biped or a humanoid moves, then this is where the difficulty comes in. Most people don't pay too much attention to the way that people in general walk or run or stand or sit or anything like that. And unless, of course, you're somebody that's highly observant, at which case you may notice things like that. But there's subtle things that can make or break your pose right off the bat. So, first things first, we need to find a pose that we want to put our character in. Well, as I like to say, Google is your friend. And if you'll see here, I've already pulled some up. What I have done is pull up some examples from Google Images of a person walking, a person running, a person just standing in different poses, of course, and a person sitting in different fashions and in different poses. So what we can do is if you're not familiar with how the human body actually moves when it assumes these different positions, then this is going to be something that you're going to want to look up, as I did here. And as you can see, there's various photographs of people in different poses. Here's a guy sitting down playing a guitar. Here's a guy kicked back kind of relaxing with his legs crossed. There's a guy in a yoga pose. Here's one with the person sitting back in a chair. I mean, there's pretty much just about any kind of sitting pose that you could possibly imagine. There's probably a photograph of it someplace. So, I mean, it's not hard to fish through and find. Now, yeah, you may have to weed through some of these poses in order to find one that fits what you're looking to do. But that's the whole point of Google. It pulls up all of these photographs, and then you just scroll through them and hunt through them until you find a pose that looks similar or even identical to what it is that you're trying to do. So let's, as an example, let's try this one. Here's a guy, and he's just kind of kicked back in a chair sitting there. So let's try and pose my astronaut model to look like this guy here. So the first thing we need is we're going to need a prop. We're going to need a chair. So I am going to type in chair, and well, that'll work just as good as any right there, folding chair. So I'm going to go ahead and open that, switch to my motion editor, and this is a folding chair, so it's got bones to fold it up and stuff like that. I do not see a static prop model, so we're going to have to use the root transform to default it. So I'm just going to default the chair, and then we're going to come in here and just turn this puppy around, highlight that last number and type -180 and hit enter. That'll turn the chair around. And let me switch to my work camera here. It would help if I pressed the right button now, wouldn't it? Now I'm just going to grab this chair and slide it back a little bit so that I can get him to pose comfortably in it. Now there's two ways that you can do this. You can do posing with or without an IK rig. Depending on the pose, sometimes it's easier to do with a rig, and sometimes it's easier to do without a rig. So I probably will switch back and forth and kind of show you the advantages of using both. But for now, to get him into his initial pose, it would be better for me to go ahead and rig the model. And since this model is compatible with Rig Biped Simple, I'm going to go ahead and rig him with that. And one thing that sometimes you don't really have to do this, but it does help with the posing, is once you put the Rig Biped, or any rig really, onto a model, it's best to expand the rig body and the rig arms. And what you want to do is grab the pelvis, highlight it, drag it to, whoops, I got the leg. I wanted the arms. I'm sorry. Right arm, left arm. You want to grab the pelvis and drag it to the right hand, and then grab it again and drag it to the left hand so that you get a lock next to the right hand and the left hand. What that does is that locks the hands to the pelvis. So now, if I move the model, the hands will move with the pelvis, and I'll move the model with the pelvis. So you want to do that. That way your arms are not sticking all the way up in here in the air, and then you have to readjust everything. It just actually makes it go a little bit easier. Now, let me open up the image here, and he's kind of sitting in a chair, slouching a little bit, kind of leaned back in it, and, well, the nice thing is he's actually sitting in a folding chair, so this is going to help even more. So, what we're going to do is we're going to try and replicate this in Source Filmmaker with the astronaut. So the first thing is we need to get his butt in the chair. So what you want to do is basically pull him down till his rear end is about level with the pad in the chair, and then slide it back to the pad a little bit. Now we want to leave a little bit of room because, like as you can see in the image here, he's kind of sitting on the edge of the chair and slouched back. So that's where we want to start. So we get him in the chair like so, kind of, well, a little bit further back. He's not, there we go. Now, yeah, it don't look like much yet, but we'll get there. But that's the first position. Let's bring him down a little bit more. There you go. He's making contact with the chair pretty good right there. Now that we've got him in that pose, now we need to start adjusting things to make it match up. What I like to do personally is when I'm doing a pose, I like to do the main part of the body first, which is going to be his torso. So we've got him placed in the chair, so now what I want to do is kind of rotate his pelvis back like so that and this looks a little exaggerated, yes, but there's a reason for this, and I'll show you. Rotate his pelvis back a little bit so that he's kind of slouching. And once you get that in position, yeah, he still doesn't look right, but follow along. You'll see how this all works here in a little bit. Now we need to move to the next spine bone, which is this bone here, spine bone 0. And we're going to rotate that back forward just a little bit. And then likewise, spine 1, rotate it forward just a little bit. And spine 2, we'll rotate it forward just a little bit. And then we'll go to the chest, and we'll rotate it forward just a little, because you don't want to deform his chest too much. So we'll put it about like that. And then we'll go back to the pelvis and re-rotate it a little bit more until we get him into a kind of slouching position. You basically just kind of have to tweak around with it a little bit till you get it about to where it looks roughly about right. And also there's another thing that you might want to do is also rotate the hips just a little bit. And that as you can see, that's already deformed that part right there. So what I'm going to do is now is come back up here and kind of rotate that out just a little bit more, and rotate this out just a little bit more, because we want it to look as natural as possible. So we're going to straighten that up a little bit, go back to the pelvis, rotate it a little bit more, and then we'll jump up here to spine 2, and we'll pull this up just a little bit, because the whole point is we kind of want to give him that kind of slouched look. There we go. We'll grab the chest, pull the chest up just a little bit more. Okay, now we'll probably have to move him back in the seat just a little bit more, just so it looks a little more natural, like so. And now if we pull it around here, yeah, he's kind of slouching in the chair a little bit. So it's getting there. And like I said, this is just one of those kind of processes that you just have to keep referring. If you're not sure, keep referring back to the image to get an idea of how close you're getting to it. That's pretty close. Might want to grab the chest and rotate it just a little bit more, and maybe even pull him forward just a little bit, and maybe even do the same with a couple of the spine bones here. Just kind of move them around a little bit and get them kind of tweaked into position. Hips, let's pull the hips back just a little bit, not too much. And the pelvis, we'll kind of pull it back just a little bit there. There we go. Now he's kind of sort of sloped back there a little bit. We'll go ahead and confirm that. So now we've got a little bit of a slouched pose there. So now we've got that part. So now we're going to move on to the head and the neck. I'm going to select the neck first and just simply rotate it forward just a little. And then of course select the head and rotate the head on in to complete the motion. And there we go. He's sitting back in the chair, slouched. Now let's take a look at our image again. Now, as you can see, he's also kind of leaned a little to the left here, just a little bit. So what we're going to want to do now is go to spine 0, nope, 1, that's about the corresponding spot. And we're going to kind of rotate this way. Yeah, no, that's not exactly. Let's go back to spine 0. Kind of rotate that this way just a little bit. And that is not bad. A little bit more maybe. Okay. And let's get the pelvis, and we're going to rotate the pelvis that way just a little bit too. There we go. And then we'll just rotate this just a tad, so we kind of get that shoulder drop just a little bit. That might be just a tad too much. Let's put him back. Okay. Now, Control Z undoes your last movement, by the way. So now, anyway, we've kind of got him roughly in the same pose. I think he might be slouched just a bit too much. So I'm going to raise him up just a little bit. And then I'll switch to this manipulator and just kind of slide him back in the chair just a little bit more. And there we go. That's not too terrible bad right there. Okay. So now we're going to hit enter, confirm that. And now let's position his legs. That's the next big thing. Oh, I might as well finish with his head. His head's kind of cocked to the side a little bit. So again, we'll grab the neck and we'll get into the rotation manipulator. We'll rotate it back this way just a little bit. And then we'll grab the head and we'll rotate it this way just a little bit. And maybe down just a tad bit more. Okay, and now confirm that with enter again. And now let's have a look at the legs. Okay, he's kind of spread-legged. One kick back under the chair here, and the other one kind of out at a 90-degree bend. So this leg here is pretty much right where it needs to be. We just need to move it out just a little bit. And the easiest way to do that with a rig on, of course, is to grab his left foot like so and just kind of just pull it out here just a little bit. And in order to get it to look natural, we're going to pull it out a little bit. Then I'm going to rotate his foot just a little bit. And by rotating his foot like that just a little bit, you'll notice the knee comes in. Everything kind of straightens up. You got the 90-degree there. And since most people don't sit in a perfectly 90-degree angle, we'll pull his foot out just a little. And that right there is pretty good right there. And then we can go back, refer. Yep, that looks like that's pretty good right there. So I'm going to go ahead and hit enter, confirm that. Now we're going to need to do the right leg. So we're going to really basically do the same thing. You can grab this part of the manipulator and just move his leg around however you need to move it. We're going to pull that one back up towards the chair a little bit. Being careful to not pull it too far in. And again, in order to make it look natural, let's move it over just a little bit and then switch to the rotation manipulator. Rotate his foot out just a little bit and rotate it this way just a little bit and back off here a little bit there, and yep, we're getting pretty close. We need to go a little bit further because his foot is actually kind of kicked up a little bit. So let's pull it back a little bit further and let's raise it up. Whoops, I grabbed the wrong manipulator. Raise it up. And now we need to rotate his foot down about there ish. Okay, and then we need to get his toe and rotate it back level with the ground, like so. And that's pretty good right there. That's pretty good. If we get in roughly the same spot. And let's give his foot just a slight bit more rotation. There we go. And then, of course, you can always grab the knee, like so, and kind of pull the knee back in just a little bit, just to keep it looking natural. And then, once again, confirm it. So now, the legs are looking pretty good. Now, really, all we've got left to do now is to do the arms. So then once again I refer back to my image here, and first things first, let's position his shoulders, which should be chest. Let's rotate his shoulders just a little bit. There we go, like so. And now enter. Now we need to rotate his collar just a little bit because it's kind of down just a little bit, and we'll take his left collar and we'll just raise it up a little bit like so. And now we're going to need to move his arm. So let's take his left arm first. Take the left hand first. And since we're already here, I'm going to go ahead and rotate his hand like so. And then we're going to drag his hand over here like this. Now his hand's kind of sitting on his thigh, so naturally we got to pull it up here a little bit. Whoops. Grab the wrong manipulator. Pull his hand down here like this. Pull it over here. Pull it up. Pull it back out a little bit. Switch manipulators and rotate his hand a little more like that. Bring her down. And let's see here. Rotation. Let's set that to local. Pull this hand over here somewhat like that. Raise it up just a little bit. After all, we don't want to bury it into his thigh. We just want it to kind of just sit there. Now let's go back to the picture and look again. Okay, yeah, it's kind of sitting mid-bone, just kind of sitting there. So we're kind of close. Let's rotate his hand just a little bit more this way, and rotate his hand just a little bit more that way, and maybe down just a little bit. You just kind of have to fiddle with it a little bit till you get it roughly. Now, like I said, I'm not going to be exact with the fingers and stuff like that. That just comes into tweaking. And now we want to give his elbow, have his elbow sticking out a little bit. So we'll just kind of drag that out just a little bit, like so. And refer back to the picture. That's pretty good. I think I need to tilt his shoulder down just a little bit. I may have raised it just a little bit too much. So let's just lower his shoulder a little bit. It's actually just set it to default. And there we go. That actually looks pretty good right there. Now, let's go ahead and confirm that. And now, let's go back to the picture. His other hand is basically just almost in the same position as this one, except it's hanging across the thigh a little bit. So, let's take his right hand and let's rotate it this way. And let's take it this way just a little bit. Switch to this manipulator. Pull it over here. Pull it forward, up, over a little bit. A little more forward. A little more this way. And grab it and rotate it like so. Rotate it down a little bit. This way just a little bit. And let's pull it this way a little bit more, and that way a little bit more. Up just a little bit. Back this way because he does have a little bit of a bend in it. And take it back that way just a little tad bit. His collar, not the elbow, the collar. Let's rotate his collar a little forward and a little bit like that. That way it gives us just a little bit more room to work with. Rotate his hand just a little bit more. Grab this. Pull it this way just a little bit more. Down. And like I said, it's kind of tedious, but this is pretty much the best way to do it. Is just make small movements, small adjustments, till you get it about where it is. Elbow, not the collar, the elbow. We want the elbow to kind of come back down just a little bit. And it's not inner. Okay, there we go. It's not perfect, but if you compare it to the picture, kind of, side by side here. Pull it down just a little bit. Pull it over a little bit. If you kind of compare it to the image that they have here, which that definitely is not quite right. Let's hit view image. There we go. It's, yeah, I mean, it's not perfect, but it's pretty dang close. And, I mean, that's basically how you do it. I mean, it doesn't have to be perfect, but, you know, of course, the closer you can get to it, the better off it'll be. And that's really all there is to posing and using an image as a guide to go by. Like I said, you could sit here and spend a couple of hours, you know, if you wanted, tweaking on this till you got it almost exactly which is pretty close right now as it is. But I mean, you could fiddle around with it for a while and get it to be nearly identical as far as the posing goes. But I mean, that's it in the basics. You basically use an image. If you're not sure what position that they should be in, that's what Google's for. Use it. It'll help you out quite a bit in doing something like this. Now, let's say that we want to have him in a good standing pose. Well, first things first, what we need to do is unlock his transforms, because I'm going to have to remove the rig. I'm going to go ahead and remove the rig from him. Give it a minute to... There we go. And now I'm going to import a sequence, which is basically his default ragdoll. So I'm going to go ahead and bring him back into that position there, so we can start from here in a standing position. I'm going to go ahead and confirm that, and then just to keep any problems, I'm going to delete my samples and save again. Bang. I want to save. Always remember, Control S, File, Save, Save As, whatever. But yeah, you want to save often. SFM has a bad habit of crashing, and usually it crashes when you're right smack in the middle of something. So save often. But anyway, we now have him in a standing position. I don't need the folding chair anymore, so I'm just going to go ahead and get rid of that. And I'm going to go ahead and hit save. Now we need to put him in a standing pose. So it just so happens I have tons of poses of people standing in different fashions. Actually, I probably could have used that one with the chair, but I'm not going to worry about it right now. Let's just give him something, a comfortable standing pose. Let's see here. There's literally tons of different ways you can have somebody standing in an image. Oh, what the hell. Let's use this one. We'll use this guy as a model here. That's a nice picture. Okay, we're going to use this guy as our model. So, looking at this, he's got one foot slightly in front of the other, kind of leaned over on this leg, hands crossed in front of him, kind of leaned towards her a little bit. So, that's what we're going to need to do. Okay, now, I did the last one using a rig. I'm now going to show you how to pose a model in that pose without a rig. That way I can cover two birds with one stone here. So now here's posing, doing a standing pose with no rig. Okay, first things first, we got to get his arms into a position that's comfortable. Now, when you used the rig, you went for the clavicle or the collar. In this case, you do not want to do that. You want to use the upper arm. And any joints, ball joints like shoulders, neck, head, hips, those all rotate. So you want to use your rotation manipulator, not your drag manipulator, your move manipulator. You don't want to use that. You want to use your rotation. And just rotate his arm down till it's like roughly in a comfortable looking position. That might be a bit much, but anyway, we can fix that. Let's pull that up just a little bit here. Actually, that's not... There we go. Actually, what I may need to do is actually use the clavicle on him to a certain degree. Okay, we'll bring the clavicle down a little bit. And then we'll grab the upper arm and we'll bring it down some. And maybe rotate it forward just a little bit. Grab the clavicle. We're going to need to move the clavicle a little bit more. Here we go. Like I said, it's a little bit more difficult to pose a model when it's when it doesn't have a rig on it. So that's why I'm kind of demonstrating this, because you really kind of have to work with it a little bit in order to get it to do what you want it to do. So now I'm going to go with the clavicle on this side. Go ahead and lower it down just a little bit. Move to the upper arm. Pull it in just a little bit, like so. I'll rotate it this way a little bit. Rotate it this way just a little bit. And not too much. We don't want to get him like way out of whack here, but pull it that way just a little bit, then take the upper arm, and you just keep manipulating it until it gets roughly into a position that's looks somewhat natural. We go back to the clavicle here and kind of rotate it forward just a little bit. And actually, same with that one. I really need to rotate it forward just a little bit. You just don't want the bones deforming, and then it looks like crap. Okay, so now we got a good start on it. We'll put him in that position there. Go ahead, confirm it. And now what we need to do is get his hands. Well, actually, we should do the body first. Always do the big stuff first. Now, he's got this foot slightly forward of that one, knee slightly bent on the left leg, or the right leg, I'm sorry. And his hips are kind of shifted towards her a little bit. So, let's start with the main root bone, which is going to be his pelvis. Now for this one, you're going to want to use the drag manipulator. You're going to want to shift his, you're going to want to, unfortunately, his pelvis is actually moving the whole thing, and that's not really what I want. So I may have to rig him after all in order to do this. It's really, I mean, I kind of gave you an idea, but yeah, I'm going to have to rig him to get him to do that. It really, in all honesty, it's better to use a rig than not use a rig. Just simply because it's just easier to do this in general. So I'm going to go ahead. We're just going to go ahead and start him over. That way everything lines up like it's supposed to. I'm going to go ahead. Oh, I can't. I've got to take the rig off first. Dang it. Okay. There we go. Go ahead and import his idle sequence again. And rotate him to 0. Whoops. I should have made that minus 180. There we go. So now I got his rig on him, and or I got him in position. Now let's rig him. We'll go ahead and put his rig on. Now everybody's happy. He's a happy camper. He's all in position. Let's go ahead and delete samples so that I don't have to fight with it. Okie dokie. Now, we'll go ahead and bring his arms back down to his sides again. And we can do those just simply by just selecting his hands and pull his arm in, select his other hand, pull that arm in, about the same spot, and I'll show you a neat little shortcut. Once you do that, hold control, select his other hand, then just grab this arrow and drag straight down until his arms are almost completely straight. Whoops, too much. There you go. And then you can stop right there and hit enter, and you can straighten both of his arms at once. And then I can select one hand, move it out slightly, select the other hand, move it out slightly, and then just basically just rotate the hands into position. Not nearly as difficult as it gets made out to be sometimes. We'll just put his hands roughly there. So hit enter, confirm. Okay, so now he's pretty much in a good starting pose for that. Now what we can do is grab the pelvis, grab the manipulator, and kind of just slide him over to where his weight's on that foot just a little bit. And now we'll need to get on the side here because he is resting most of his weight on that foot, but he's going to be kind of back just a little bit. And we're going to bring him down just a hair because he's kind of got that knee slightly bent. So, there we go. And now, a little bit more. Okay. Now let's refer back to our image. Okay, now let's adjust his pelvis a little bit and turn it this way just a little, and tilt it just a little bit this way, and we'll confirm that, and let's tilt the pelvis just a little forward. There we go. Okay, now he's kind of got that leaned over kind of thing going on there. Let's bring the pelvis down just slightly, and now let's move on to the legs. We need to position his feet. So we need to bring his left leg forward and out just a little. So we need to get the left foot and basically just pull it forward and out just a little. Then give it just a slight bit of rotation, like so. And then his right foot, we need to turn it outward just a little bit and rotate it just a little bit, and then bring it outward just a little, like so. And maybe take it back just a hair. There we go. Let's refer back to our image. Yeah, his heel here is just about at the ball of his foot. And that's right about where we're at. So, yeah, we're in good shape. Confirm that. Now, let's go to spine 0 and give that just a slight rotate that way. Looks a little more natural that way. And give spine 0 just a slight turn that way. And that looks pretty good. Okay, lean his head. Lean his head this way just a little bit. And the neck always leans a little bit too. So we're going to lean the neck just a little bit. And turn the head this way just a little bit. And we'll go ahead and confirm that. Now his hands. Okay, he has his left hand under his right hand. No problem. So now we're going to switch from the legs to the arms. And we'll go with the left hand since that one's on the bottom. We'll go ahead and pull his left hand over this way a little bit. Let's change our position here. Pull him over here just a little bit. Raise it up just a little bit. Let's rotate his hand to where it's a little more flat. Like so. Like so. And let's grab the elbow and pull the elbow out a little bit. And let's pull the elbow up just a little bit, like so. We'll grab the collar and rotate the collar down just a little bit. And then we'll go back to the hand, and we'll grab the hand, and we'll pull the hand over here. Pull it up just a little bit. Whoops, I pulled it out. You got to watch the manipulators that you're using. Grab it, pull it up just a little bit, and pull it back in just a little bit more. And now we'll pull it out just a hair. There we go. So it looks a little more natural. And refer back to the photograph. Yeah, that's pretty much where he has his hand. So now if we want to do the fingers, just to get kind of technical here, I'm going to go ahead and confirm what I've got so far. Fingers are a pain in the butt, but it's not too hard to do them if you know what you're doing and the process that you're going to use. So I'm going to just show you a real quick trick that I have for doing fingers. First of all, I want to move his knuckle joints first. So you highlight finger 1, control and highlight finger 2, hold control and finger 3, hold control finger 4. Now when you have those all selected, go to your rotation manipulator. And now what you're going to want to do is right click here, go to rotation mode, and make sure you're on local. Now, if I rotate his fingers, as you can see, they curl right up. Now, yeah, I didn't curl all of them, but this is how you start it. So now, you go in, I go to finger 1, 1, hold control finger 2, 1, hold control finger 3, 1, hold control finger 4, 1, and now I'm going to rotate them so that I can ball his hand up into a fist. And then you repeat the same process. 1, 2, hold control 2, 2, hold control 3, 2, hold control 4, 2, and grab those, curl them on up. And then we'll just grab his full hand, because and pull it out just a little bit. And of course he's kind of got screwed up fingers anyway, so I'm just trying to get it close. So yeah, this is not going to be perfect, but anyway, now he's kind of got his hand balled up there into like a fist. Actually, I should have left the other ones alone and just did it at the other one. But so Well, we could fix that real easy. Control Z till I put his hand back out straight like so. And to just curl up those, you want finger 1, 1, finger 2, 1, finger 3, 1, and finger 4, 1. Grab the rotate, and let's just pull them inwards like so. And of course, naturally, they're wanting to go sideways, but I can fix that. We just pull the rotation back this way a little bit. I'll pull the rotation back this way just a little bit. And grab them, fold them up. Like so. Just until it looks right. There we go. And then, of course, then again, I will grab the hand and move over here like so, and pull it away from his body just a little bit so it looks a little more natural. And there we go. I'm going to go ahead and confirm that. That's not bad. That'll work. Right in there. So now we got his hand pretty much in the position that it needs to be in. So now we just need to get his other hand. So now let's grab this hand, grab this manipulator, pull this hand, whoops, raise him up just a little bit, take this hand, and we're going to do the same thing with this hand. We're going to rotate it this way, and then we're going to grab it, we're going to rotate it that way, get off here to the side so I can pull his hand forward, and then pull it over top of that hand. And yes, his arm is all kind of wacky, but that's no problem. We can fix that. We grab the collar, go into our rotation manipulator. We're going to rotate the collar out this way, and look, his arm starts to look a little more natural at that point. And then we're going to grab the elbow, go back to this manipulator. We'll pull the elbow out. Raise the elbow up just a little bit, and then we'll go back to the, whoops, wrong hand, that hand. Go back to the rotation manipulator, and we'll go ahead and pull this up just a little bit. We'll rotate his hand just a little bit more. Rotate it out just a little bit. And hit enter, confirm it, and that's pretty dang close. Again, I'll go ahead, view image, we'll shrink her down, and okay, I can see one thing that still needs to be done is right, oh, nope, left collar. Right collar. Okay. We need to lower the collar just a little bit. And it looks like we could lower his elbow just a tad so it doesn't look quite so goofy. There we go. And now if we pull the image in here, yeah, that's pretty close. Again, it's the image is a guide to go by so that you can pose your character as close as you can want to get him. And like I said, it's not perfect, but it's close. And that's what we're shooting for. We're shooting for close, not identical, because it can be done, but it's very tedious work, and it's very hard to get an image, a model in here perfect. It depends on the bone structure and everything like that. But as you can see, you get pretty close. So there you go. There's, kind of a relaxed standing pose. And that's pretty much all there is to posing. You just take your time and don't get in a big rush. And if you don't know exactly how you want the character to look then, Google up images. Google something up and use that as a guideline. I've also got images for people running. Um, Running poses, walking poses. There's literally, just about any position that you would want to simulate, you can find an image for someplace. And then you just put them in the position you want them in and go from there. Uh, but that's pretty much it. That's all there really is to posing. It's just taking your time and having something to see. That's why I say if you've got a very good imagination, you can actually visualize in your mind what you want your character to look like before you even put your character in position, and then you can put them in position to match the image in your head. And if you don't quite have the imagination to visualize it in your head, I do, but some people don't. So then that's where the Google Pictures comes in. Because if you can't visualize in your head what you want your character's pose to look like, then, like I said, look it up. Keywords are important. If I want to know what a person walking looks like, then I use person walking. If I want to know what they look like when they're standing, then I use person standing. Like this. Person standing. Person sitting. That's your keywords right there. Person sitting. You can also look up as an example. Let's see. You can type in fight pose and go to images for Google. And then here you go. You've got all these different images of people in fighting poses of some form or another. Some of them even illustrate muscle positions and things like that to kind of give you an idea of, how the person's body should be positioned. And of course there's females and males in here positioned in different fight poses and things like that. So, you don't have to, you can search specifically female fight pose, male fight pose, but, if you just put in fight pose, you'll get both. See, here's a female here. And like I said, some images are better than others. I prefer to use the filter in the tools here under size. I prefer to type in an exact size. Like in this case, 1920 by 1080. Whoops. Backspace. Backspace again. 1080. And that way I get all large size images, so that way if I want to get a really good look at what that fight pose looks like, I've got a bigger image to work with, and I can come in and see some of the details about how their elbows are pointed and how their wrists are turned, and that's how I construct my poses and stuff is by using, like I said, actual physical images. You've also got some fight poses here done with skeletons. There's whatever, it basically comes down to whatever works for you. But this is a key thing. This is what you want. You want to find images like this, and then, find an image that suits the position that you're looking for, the image that you're looking for. Like, here's a sword strike, from both directions, the person getting hit and the person doing the hitting with the sword. This is a good reference, because then you could actually pose both of your characters off of this same image, because you'd have one image. Now, like I said, this looks a little exaggerated to me as far as the guy being all the way up in the air and flying backwards and all that. This pose here looks pretty good for a good lunge strike with a sword, but you get the idea. That's the kind of thing that you want to look for and then go with. And of course, the more realistic that you want it to look, that's when you, instead of using something like one of these CGI things here, you hunt up, an image of a real person doing the pose that you're wanting to copy. You search up a real person doing it. That way you get an actual image of what the body's positioning is. And then you can position your model to match it. But I mean, that's really all there is to it. It's simple and straight to the point. This one's actually a good hand-drawn sketch pose of a warrior defending against an arrow attack. You literally, like I said, you can find an image for almost anything. To be honest, I could probably, I'm just going to, just to show you, I bet you I can find an image of a person taking a sip from a coffee cup. So if I wanted to do a pose of my character sipping from a coffee cup, such as this one, there you go. I've got the pose right there. I can copy it. If I can't visualize it in my head, I can copy it right there. So, I mean, literally, you can find just about anything that you want on the internet. The internet's better. It's good for a lot more than just hunting up cat videos and memes. So, you can use it to do all of this kind of thing. So, that's it in a nutshell. I hope this helps you out. You got the Captain Fuzzy here, and if you got any questions, hit me up on Steam. You can leave questions for me or comments on my Steam profile. I also have a YouTube channel. The link is in my Steam profile. You can contact me that way if you wish, and I will try and get back to you just as quick as I can. In the meantime, this is the Captain, and I am out of here.